Kennedy Boys and Girls Championships. Commuters left stranded after e.tc workers withdraw service. And Integrity Commission defends handling of recent controversy involving Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
Hello and welcome to the Nightly News. I'm Anthony Loke. The news in detail right after this break. Thanks for staying with us, and a special welcome to viewers on OneSpotMedia.com. Up first tonight, sensational record-breaking sprinting from Kingston College's Bawaji and Fume and Hyder's Alana Reid highlight second day of the Issa Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships at the National Stadium earlier tonight. And Fume ran the fastest ever junior time on local soil with 9.99 seconds, while Reid erased Veronica Campbell-Brown's 22-year champ's record en route to a national junior record of 10.92 seconds. We'll have more on this in sports a little later. The Education Ministry, and we go back there. TVJ News understands that scores of JUTC workers have withdrawn their service. It's understood that the drivers are not happy with the recent wage increase.
I wish to make it clear, though, that the unions representing workers did sign the compensation agreement, and having received the pay scale or the pay structure from the TIU within the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, we implemented and paid the workers accordingly.
This could spell trouble for commuters tomorrow morning, as Corporate Communications Manager for the JUTC, Cecil Toms, says
to keep in touch with what's happening with the media. They're based abreast of what is being released by us. We commit to inform you of what's taking place, and we hope to resolve this matter in the shortest possible time.
The Education Minister says ministry officials will be hosting virtual meetings and have dedicated phone lines to answer teachers' questions about changes on their pay slips this month. TVJ News caught up with her at a function in St. Andrew today, where she explained efforts to make retroactive payments contributed to the delay in the teachers' salaries this month. But she says the 1,000 teachers paid directly by the Education Ministry were not affected.
The payroll this month, based on the schedule that comes out from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, had the pay date a little bit earlier than normal. We tried to reach that earlier than normal pay date, but we didn't get there. We were delayed by 2 or 3 days after that. Just doing all the work, all the conversions. We have 25,000 teachers, and each of them are individual teachers with different things that they were used to on their payroll, and to convert that to the new.
She assured that up to this morning, payments were being sent to the remaining 17,000 teachers paid by school bursars, and that the issue would be resolved by today. However, it's still not clear if this was done. The JTA says it's concerned about those teachers who are yet to receive their salaries. The association is urging the affected teachers, to communicate with the regional representatives so the lobbying can continue. Executive Director of the Integrity Commission, Greg Christie, is defending his and the Commission's actions in the recent controversy involving Prime Minister Andrew Holness in the Westcon Limited matter. The Commission faced a Parliamentary Oversight Committee this afternoon, where Mr. Christie was grilled with questions. More in this report.
Executive Director of the Integrity Commission, Greg Christie, was facing the Parliamentary Committee for the first time since the controversial report. On one hand, the Prime Minister was being cited for possible corruption charges. 24 hours later, another report exonerating him. When pressed, Mr. Christie rejected claims that the Commission embarrassed the Prime Minister. He was also taken to task about taking to Twitter.
Reuters and the world have it that the Prime Minister of Jamaica, head of the country of government in Jamaica, has been referred to the Director of Corruption Proceedings. You knew that there's a ruling. Don't you think it would be appropriate to immediately tell the world that there's a ruling not to proceed?
But Mr. Christie insists there was no effort to create mischief arguing the Integrity Commission has historically retweeted stories on all its investigations.
The Commission retweeted the Gleaner story on the 15th, the Jamaica Observer story, and on the same date it retweeted the PM's rejection of the report. The story that you mentioned about the opposition leader, that was also retweeted. And then on the following day, Nationwide's rejection, story on the rejection report was also retweeted on the February 15th. And the next day, the ruling, we retweeted the ruling, the Gleaner story on the ruling and the Observer story on the ruling. That is not being mentioned.
He also turned down claims by committee member Everald Warmington that the commission is staffed with political activists. According to Mr. Warmington, the Director of Corruption Prevention had previously worked for former PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips, but Mr. Christie refused to have that discussion.
The issue, Mr. Chairman, is that he's asking about the political persuasion of a particular person. That's not my business.
But then why employ him if he's involved politically? That's what I'm asking you. You say there's no political bias there. He was employed to Dr. Peter Phillips in a political capacity as an advisor, and it's right here in front of me.
Chairman, respectfully, he has asked a question about an individual who, from his job description, right, has nothing to do with any other reports that have been tabled, brought, etc. Right? I don't know why we're pursuing this line against a particular individual. If the member has something specific related to how that person has executed his job and that he has done so with bias, then that's different. But to go back and be asking somebody what their previous maybe, I don't know how relevant that is.
Despite the accusations, Mr. Christie suggested that the real problem is with all reports on the same matter not being released simultaneously. He suggests that legislation should be changed to address that issue urgently.
Less than 1% of close to 45,000 fires have been fully investigated by the Jamaica Fire Brigade from 2017 to 2022. The findings were outlined in a damning Auditor General's report tabled in Parliament on Tuesday.
The Auditor General pointed out that the Jamaica Fire Brigade, JFB's investigation handbook, did not have an established criteria to select fires for investigations. However, the brigade's investigation policy stated that structural fires, those that cause death or serious injury, explosions and bushfires, are among those to be investigated. Still, only 210 of the 44,764 reported fires were investigated. That's less than 1%. Only 100 reports were presented to the Auditor General for review. The budget for equipment also came into sharp focus. The Fire Brigade requested $320.5 million worth of equipment, but only $184.5 million was approved. Priority areas will therefore have to be adjusted. In the meantime, for the 2017 to 2022 period, follow-up inspections were only done for 49 of 500 buildings initially inspected. The Auditor General recommended that the Fire Brigade should do more follow-up building inspections to ensure all deficiencies are fixed within the specified time frame. Building owners in breach should face consequences in keeping with the law.
Dean Roy Bernard, who was relieved of his position as Permanent Secretary in the Education Ministry and demoted to Director General in the Finance Ministry, is to be reinstated as Permanent Secretary. This after a ruling by the Supreme Court this morning. The court ruled that transferring Mr. Bernard was unconstitutional and he should be reinstated as Permanent Secretary in the next 3 months. Mr. Bernard challenged the constitutionality of the transfer and asked for his reinstatement. Among other things, Mr. Bernard argued that Prime Minister Andrew Holness had no authority to recommend reassignment and the Public Service Commission had a duty to review the Prime Minister's recommendation. Mr. Bernard's reassignment was done in the wake of the Caribbean Maritime University scandal involving then Education Minister Ruel Reid. Mr. Bernard was appointed in 2016. He was represented by attorney Mark Williams. And still ahead tonight, More professionals needed to help steer young people away from a life of crime. We'll be right back. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. We're continuing the news. Onion farmers in St. Thomas are breathing a sigh of relief tonight. Agriculture Minister Pernell Charles Jr. intervened and has gotten a commitment from one local agency to purchase the onions which the farmers feared were going to waste.
On Monday, onion farmers in St. Thomas cried out. And on Wednesday, Agriculture Minister Pernell Charles Jr. answered.
We have been able to resolve issues, I believe, and come to a consensus.
The ministry led a team which included the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, the Potato Onion Producers Association, POPA, and others who met with farmers who've been unable to find markets for hundreds of pounds of onion. At the end of the meeting, a commitment from POPA.
We are going to buy up the crop that is available now and moving those crops into storage.
The farmers, although welcoming the commitment,
the only issue we have now is the pricing. And if we can get the pricing to what we are looking for, to what we spend, then we are in good road. Price is a policy decision. Every farmer has his right to negotiate his price point. For the most part, the farmers have engaged us, and we are talking about the pricing now. So price is no longer an issue.
The agriculture minister says the farmers have performed beyond expectation, and focus will now be placed on improving storage facilities.
For this kind of crop, storage capacity, the drying facility capacity is critical. We may have high production in 1 month and lower production in the other months. And so when we produce exceptional amounts, what we need is the capacity to be able to dry and keep that for a prolonged period. And that's where we are stepping in.
What we didn't get from the meeting is how much onion constantly going to be taken every week on a regular basis. And we need to negotiate and talk to how often they're going to come and take the onion until it's all gone.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
The St. Andrews Central Police says it has no motive for the gas station shooting that left one man dead, another injured, and several others traumatized. As Jamaica Maitland reports, the police did reveal that attack caught on camera has given them a start in their investigations.
It's 6:35 p.m., Tuesday, March 28th, and taxi operators in between fares are playing a game of dominoes at the Texaco gas station at the intersection of Malines and Waltham Park Road in St. Andrew. A bike pulls up with a pillion dressed in reflective gear. He opens fire on the group, sending passers-by and workers alike running for cover. 2 people were shot, 1 fatally. The dead man has been identified as 34-year-old Nicholas Scott. Head of the Halfway Tree Police Station, Senior Superintendent Marlon Nesbitt, says Scott might have been the target of the attack. However, the motive remains unclear.
It seems to might have stemmed from some other situation sometime last year where the tax operator had some issues previously. I won't go into the details of that as we seek to uncover the various aspects of it and pursue a probe around this.
Now, the shooting has also brought into sharp focus the need for businesses to have more CCTV cameras and for them to be hooked up to the Jamaica Eye network. Not only were the police able to view what happened, but also what direction the attackers went after the shooting.
Just recently, the police commissioner spoke about the gains of having CCTV cameras.
Maybe we're going to have to recalibrate how we roll out Jamaica. It is one of the most impactful things that we can do. As a matter of fact, it has assisted us with many major cases.
Jamaica Maitland for TVJ News.
Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson continues to lament the need for more technology to be used in the fight against crime. He was speaking at the handing over of new equipment to the Communication Forensics and Cybercrime Division of the JCF.
The area of cyber forensics, communication forensics, is a growing, ever-growing aspect of what we do as a police force, particularly our criminal investigation, and otherwise. But we've been having some meetings with the team from there recently to look at how we build up this division to meet current and future needs.
The equipment is worth $30 million and was handed over by the Ministry of National Security. The police have released the identities of the two men who were killed in Crawl, Hanover yesterday. The deceased are Romain Austin, 26 years old, and 28-year-old Romario Drummond. Both men are from Clarendon. It's understood they've been working on a construction site in Hanover. According to reports, they were at home sometime after 4 a.m. when gunmen barged in and opened fire at them. The men were taken to the Noel Holmes Hospital where they were pronounced dead. The Green Island Police are investigating. We need more social workers and clinical psychologists. That's admission from National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang tonight as he lobbies for more programs to help steer young people away from a life of crime. Krista Campbell has the details.
These are the faces of some of the 600 youth targeted in a 6-year crime prevention program funded by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. US-based non-profit human development organization FHI 360 developed the program in collaboration with the Ministry of National Security and other state agencies for youngsters aged 15 to 26 who were at risk of becoming criminals.
Most of them come from families that have directly seen crime. Many of them have already been either recruited or on the brink of becoming engaged directly. Some of them have already been in prison.
Programs like these usually see a 40% success rate, but this time around,
57% of our youth have shown reduction in risk levels at the end of the program. They are showing less antisocial tendencies. They are better in controlling their anger. They are better in controlling their impulsivity. And they're better in keeping their, either staying in school or keeping the jobs.
The fact that they put the time into like critical training, we can get to venture further in our career. Well, I like that, how they do that. It's not easy to live in now. It's a very difficult community. A lot of violence and so forth. So I would tell them if they get the opportunity to go somewhere further, I would encourage them to do it.
But National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang is worried about the challenges of sustaining the gains of such a program because of a shortage of trained professionals needed to work with at-risk youth.
We need more social workers in the institutions and in the public service and in the health services to provide that kind of service. The Ministry of Justice will be there for their child and restorative justice program, but again, for it to function effectively and a sustained manner, I need the professionals who can provide the continued counseling.
He says the government has increased the salaries of social workers and clinical psychologists to make the professions more attractive, but there's still a challenge.
I find many students doing psychology. At first, I thought they had an interest in clinical psychology, but I realized psychology is one of the least expensive courses at university. Paid for it when they get out with the first degree. They do a master's in labor relations, industrial relations, and all kind of things that get them into the commercial market.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
And we take another break, but stay with us. Sports is next.